congressmen to get it passed. But the fight is still going on. It's actually going on as we speak. And can't give up on that fight. And there are going to be elections. And so I don't think, I mean, there's a lot of panic out there, but, this isn't over. The world is not over. We can still take this back. It's getting tougher. The enemy is stronger. It's, they've got control of the political world. But, I think the Tea Party movement, I'm a big fan of the Tea Party, if it is a movement, whatever it is, the Tea Party phenomenon. Because what the Tea Party phenomenon represents is an American emotional response to big government and to statism. And what the Tea Party movement has done is said, no, we don't want any more growth in government. We don't like big government. We want this to stop. And they haven't taken the next step about talking about how to shrink government and how to limit it and what principle to use to limit it. Individual rights would be my vote. But at least they've responded. At least they stood up and said, enough is enough. And I was afraid that Americans didn't even have that in them anymore. So, I take heart in the fact that people are willing to go rally. People are on the phones right now, people are writing letters, people engaged in the political process on the side of freedom. They don't completely get the case for freedom, they don't fully understand it, there's a risk that this dies out if the Republicans actually win this year, but, there's a real opportunity, there's an opportunity I think, we can all take advantage of by providing them with better intellectual ammunition.
Just one more thing. So I've had this idea that we have all these government bureaucrats regulating business. What would happen if businesses could boycott the government? Say, Coca-Cola, bureaucrats, they need something to drink, right? They want their Dasani or whatever. What if...
Well, but businesses can't, yeah, they can if they all did it together and they all ganged up together to boycott government, and businesses just ignored government. But that would be a revolution. That would be declaring a revolution. At first, businessmen would have to believe that that was the right thing to do. That is, that government interference was bad. Many businesses today don't believe that. They game the system. They try to manipulate politics for their own advantage. Or they're just caught up in it and they don't know what the alternative is. And if you're the one businessman who does know and you stand up, they're going to shut you down. They have big guns. You don't. So, if we could get 1,000 businesses to say, we don't believe in government intervention in the economy, we've already won. At that point, it's over. There are 1,000 strategies I could think of at that point that would get us to where we want to go. That being one of them, but there could be many others. So the real battle is to convince businessmen that this is the right position to have. I have to go to the next. Yeah.
You spoke a little bit ago about loopholes in the Constitution that our forefathers didn't have enough foresight to express a solution for. Could you give 2 or 3 examples of loopholes?
Not really. What I would have loved to see in the Constitution, which is not there, is a clear statement that just like there is a separation of church and state, there should be a separation of economics and state. That, clearly, and the problem is that it's kind of there, but it's not exactly there, partially because they didn't quite understand it. Remember, this is pre-capitalism, this is pre-industrial revolution. They were still agrarians, and there was still not a complete understanding what taxes represented. So they allow for some taxation, but not other taxation. So if I were writing a constitution today, I would make clear that there was a clear, I think, 4 separations. That is the Constitution. I would separate church and state and make it even stronger than it is today, because the right, the religious right is rewriting that section of the Constitution as we speak. I would make a clear separation of economics and state. No government involvement in the economy, period. None. General welfare, no general welfare, doesn't matter. The government has no role in the economy. Or in economics, so you're taking a position, right? Government shouldn't advocate for capitalism or socialism, or it should just butt out. If you want to go start a socialist commune somewhere, and you can get a bunch of people to volunteer to go with you, it's stupid, but go do it. In a free country, you should be able to do it, as long as you're not using force on people. A complete separation of state and education. There should be no public education. Government has no role in educating us, telling us what right and wrong is, what 2 + 2 is. You can see the quality of what government education produces, where so many people don't know what 2 + 2 is. Because I like to ask people, you know, when you want to mail a letter, and you want to make sure it gets the way you want it to get to, do you give it to the post office, do you give it to FedEx or UPS? 99% of people say UPS or FedEx. So, but it's okay to take our kids and their brains and give them over to the government. Same bureaucracy that runs the post office runs our public schools. It's the same principles. And then the fourth separation is a separation of state and science. And I think you're seeing the destructive nature of the lack of that separation in the debate over climate change. Over the discussion about stem cells, which stem cells, what. I just heard today that the Obama administration, while has approved a bunch of new lines of stem cell research, think about this, the Obama administration is approving stem cell lines for research. Who the hell are they? Right? But that they banned the one line that the Bush administration had approved for research. So everybody's been doing research on that line for the last 5 years. Can't continue because they can't have access that was taken out of the NIH, the National Institute for Health database. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens when you get government subsidized research. But it's more than that. It's, you know, go back to global warming. If you're doing research and the conclusion of the research is everything's fine, life's good, nobody's going to give you any money. The government's not going to renew your grant. But if you say, unless you give me more money to investigate this further, the world will end, you're going to throw money at you. And a lot of the self-perpetuating nature of these catastrophe science, which is not limited just to climate change, is because that's the nature of the political process. They'll fund catastrophes. They won't fund, that everything's fine. For example, you can get money to help cure cancer, but you can't get money to extend human life. So if you're doing research on how to extend human life, it's very hard to get money from the government, but you can get it for cancer easily. Because one's a catastrophe and one's pretty good. So those would be the 4 separations I would advocate for, explicitly in the Constitution. While the Constitution does a lot of great things, and yes, with the right interpretation, you could even see some of these in it, it's not explicit enough. And after all, Jefferson was pro-public education, and they didn't completely get it. Yeah.
So this is a state school, actually. It's actually it's a government school.
Yeah, it is.
It's also a top research institution, and a lot of that research is funded by the federal government.
True.
And then I think it's also ironic that a lot of life is ended by cancer. So studying curing cancer indirectly has a side effect of also learning how to extend life.
Yeah, but the fact is, and I encourage you to read, at least under Bush's, there was a biotech commission under Bush that looked into all the biotech issues, and they published a big, very thick report, and I read a big chunk of it. And they explicitly in that report, and this was written by a conservative by the name of Leon Cass, who today is at the American Enterprise Institute, and explicitly that report states that they advocate for not funding research into extending life.